excited. Hello, everybody. My name's Aubrey Taylor, and I just joined the Provo Health and Gutsy Health team as a wellness consultant. And I'm going to talk to you guys about mindset today and how that plays into our healing journey. I'm going to just go into a little bit of like what mindset is in case you're not familiar. And then some like real practical strategies that you can implement like tonight and hopefully ongoing through your healing journey that will just get your mindset into a vibration of healing to help your body along its journey. So that's what we're going to talk about.
I love that you said mindset and a vibration of healing, because, you know, I personally don't talk about that enough, but I respect it fiercely, because the mindset of healing is so important. And even in like the hair analysis, emotions show up, and it's every time that shows up, I'm like, oh crap. Not oh crap, like this is bad. It's like, oh no, like I'm not a therapist. Like, how do we handle emotions, right? But there are so many tapes that we are brought up with that like oftentimes sabotage, like these tapes or belief systems, they sabotage our ability to heal. And oftentimes when emotions come up, I ask people, do you believe your body is capable of healing? And they'll just start bawling. They'll be like, no, like I've been fighting my body for decades. Oh, it's Katie in the back. Do you want to come say hi? Hi. Is that everybody? Well, I'll be listening in. Okay.
Hi, Katie.
So I'm really excited for you to get started, Aubrey. We'll just wait a few more minutes for a few more people to jump in. Normally it's about like 10-ish people, 6-ish people. It always just depends. It depends. So, and then a lot of people listen to the recording because they can't make this time. And so we save these Zooms and people can listen back, and it's really, really great. Also, you guys, let me just introduce you. Like Aubrey kind of introduced herself a little bit, but I've known her on Instagram for a while, and she brought her daughter in, your daughter, right, for a hair analysis?
Yeah, my 10-year-old.
Yeah, she brought her daughter in for a hair analysis. Aubrey and I, we kind of speak the same language, and we've kind of had these like connections on Instagram from time to time. And when she came in, and Katie was talking with her about her daughter's hair analysis, and Katie was like, hey, Aubrey would be a really great fit for another health consultant. And I was like, I'll put that on my back burner. Because she really is so intelligent. Like Aubrey just knows the body, and she's an advocate, and she does her research. And I've interviewed a lot of people, right? And so I called Aubrey up. Did I text you or message you? I don't remember, but I was like, hey.
Yeah, you messaged me.
Yeah. And like, I'm like, hey, any chance you want to talk about maybe working for Provo Health? And we spoke, and the interview was so long, and I sat on it for a few weeks. I interviewed other people. And even though these other people had like years and years worth in the field, I was just like, Aubrey just feels the best. Like, she just feels like she's a better fit. She believes in this mission more. And I love, like, all of my consultants have all had to figure out their own healing journeys. That's not the reason why I hired them, but I need people to be able to relate to us, those that don't feel well in their own bodies, because we need a mirror to you that you can advocate and you can heal. And so that's why I brought in Aubrey, because she has advocated for herself. She has figured it out. She does a lot of research. And so I was like, hey, if you want, like, come work with us. And so I'm really excited for you to help me create some courses in the mind-body healing arena for the Gutsy Health membership. So, all right, we've got quite a crowd, and hopefully it'll just keep growing. So, Aubrey, why don't you take front seat and like tell us all that there is to know?
All the things.
All the things.
Okay. Yeah, well, so what I want to start with is a word that is my favorite word of all the words in probably the English language, and it's metanoia. And I don't know if you guys have heard it before, but it basically means the journey of changing our mind and our heart and our self and our beliefs, or the way that we live our life, to something that's serving us better. And along that journey means letting go of something that wasn't serving us. And this is really like this word, this concept of the journey of metanoia is where my personal health journey began. Like, I had to give permission to myself to let go and disagree with a past version of myself that was keeping me stuck and sick and not healing, and then openly seek and embraced just a different belief system. And if I hadn't given myself that permission to change, I would still be where I was 4 years ago, struggling with the same 20 things. But because I opened up, everything started to shift. So I want to invite you into that space with me. If you're feeling stuck, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. Like, that was one thing that I struggled with was, oh my gosh, if all of this new stuff is true, then I was wrong for 28 years of my life. And I had to get over that. So it doesn't really mean you're wrong. It just means you're growing and progressing. And I feel like metanoia is really the essence of growth and progression and healing. So, yeah, I just want to start with that word. So we're going to talk about, like we were saying at the beginning, we're going to talk about the importance of mindset, and then also just like some practical tools is where I really want to spend the most of the time, right? Things that we can do easily. I love mindset because it's just free stuff that you can do 10 minutes a day. It's really going to amplify the healing.
Can I interject really fast before we get started? Can we have people just shout out questions and then you can like write them down or answer them? So does anyone have any burning questions right now before we launch into this? And Aubrey, you can choose whether you want to answer it now or if you want to answer it later while you're talking. But I find like people's questions help me direct where I'm going to go.
Perfect.
So guys, who wants to, if you want to put all of your videos on, put your hand up and I'll say, okay, you first, you second, you third. That way we can kind of get the questions going. So everyone put your screens on. And if you have a question, put your screen on. And who wants to go first? You guys take up space. Like whoever wants to go first, go first. Who wants to go first with the question about mind, body, health, emotions? Anyone? Okay, Sarah, go ahead. Welcome.
Okay, so I guess I feel like I listen to podcasts all the time and I read so many books and I'm like, yes, I need this, you know? And then the negativity starts coming in and I know that it's not good, but I can't stop myself from dwelling on it. Mm-hmm. So my hardest thing is like, I know that there's this list of really good things that I need to be doing, but my brain is like, no, it's too hard. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. Like the negativity just takes over. So I guess my like biggest question is how do you stop it from taking over and like redirect right away? That's where I struggle.
Yeah, that is such a good question. Do you want me to go through all the questions first?
I would love to hear the answer to that. If anyone else has because I want to see if you guys have questions, well, you should put your video on and like put your hand up. Okay, so Bree has a question. So only one other person has a question so far. Rachel has a question. Okay, so we're getting a lot of people have questions. So Aubrey, why don't do you want to answer that now? And then or do you want to see what everyone's questions are?
So I feel like in order to answer that question, and maybe Sarah would totally understand the answer, but without a little bit of background on mindset and how it works, we might lose some people.
Okay.
Sense?
So yes.
That question, Sarah, though, is part of what I want to talk about at the end as part of the really practical strategies that you can do every day. And it's something that I had to learn how to do too. And now it's like, boom, boom, boom. Like I have guns on those negative thoughts and they don't even come this close to my brain now.
I love it. Okay, so Bree, you have a question then. So what's your question?
My question is, I have a hard time letting go of trauma or resentment towards a situation that's been building up. So I don't know how to let go of something like that, that trauma for the past 4 years.
Okay.
Okay.
I to ask.
Okay, that's a great question. I love it.
Yeah.
Rachel, what is your question?
My question is, how do you deal with basically when, my father's love language was food, and, how I was rewarded as a child was through fast food and through all of these things that, now as an adult, and I'm raising kids, they're like, okay, look realistic at it. How do I train my mind that was already so young that, I mean, I can't even, like, trying to stop that mind frame, like if I have a bad day, not to try to seek it out in food is extremely difficult. I don't know how to circumvent that.
Yeah.
Good questions.
That's great. And I think that's something, oh, I mean, who didn't get pacified with food as a kid, right? Like, that's a great question.
Such a good question. Melissa, you had a question.
Sorry.
You're good. You're great.
So my question is that sometimes I can make a mind shift, but I have a son with multiple disabilities. And so as soon as something blows up with him, everything's out the window. And so I'm always like at a 10, and it's hard to get back down and get that negative thinking out, because it's always like stressful. What's going to happen with him next, whether it's with school or therapy or medical wise. So I guess just how to kind of like keep the negative thoughts away and keep like a steadiness going to that.
Love it. Does anyone else have questions before Aubrey kind of launches into her class tonight? Because she's writing these all down, and she's going to you're going to integrate them into what you're talking about, correct?
Yep.
Anyone else? You guys put your videos on, start chatting. If not, then we'll get going in like 10 seconds.
And Juanique, well, I'm like so bad at, if people are writing in the chat, it's super distracting to me. So I don't even look at it. So if someone has a really good question, just stop me. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
I did see, I'm really bad at that too, but I did see someone has a question not regarding tonight's topic. So we will talk about other questions after you are done. So if people that have questions that are not related to this, if you're like, hey, I'll tune back in 45 minutes, see where we're at, see if we're winding down, and then you can ask your questions, okay? All righty. I don't think I see anyone else with questions, so we can kind of, you go ahead and take the lead, Aubrey.
Okay. And please stop me too if you want to clarify something or add something. Like, this is not the Aubrey show. So, okay, so in the Gutsy membership and with what we do with the consulting at Provo Health, a lot of it is nutrition. And I want to expand the view of what nutrition actually is, how I view nutrition. So nutrition is anything that goes into our body. That can be our breath, that can be our water, our food, but it's also our thoughts, what we say about ourselves, that goes into us, what other people say to us goes into us, and then also like the media that we consume. And I love how Sarah was saying that she's constantly giving herself that kind of nutrition through good podcasts. So being mindful of all the inputs of nutrition, that's not just food, water, air, but any words that are part of our nutrition for our body. Okay, so what is mindset? It's basically, and I can't like see people's, it just says names, so I can't see if someone's like raising their hand or nodding. But mindset, if you're not familiar, is just our conscious and also more importantly, our subconscious tapes that we play that determine our actions and then the outcomes of our life. And so mindset to me really precedes change in our lifestyle. And we're here to change our lifestyle. So I feel like we have to back up a little bit and get the horse on the cart with the mindset. So I drew a little picture on my whiteboard. Can you guys,
Yes.
Okay, so it's a tree, it's an apple tree. And this represents kind of like our mindset, beliefs, and actions. So I'm going to write some things down. And if you have a notebook and you want to copy this, I totally invite you to do that. Because this is a really good analogy. So the mindset is down here. It's like the soil that the tree is planted in. And mindset gives nutrition to our beliefs. And those are the roots. Then the roots go up and they bring the nutrition up to the trunk, and that's our thoughts and sometimes even our emotions. That's like the trunk of the tree. Thoughts and emotions. And then our thoughts and emotions grow up into these branches, which is our effort and our actions. And then finally, at the end of the branches, we have the fruit, and that's the results that we're getting in life right now. And I'm guessing if you're here on this call, some of the results you're getting in your health were not really what you wanted, so you're trying to change the results. And so if we go back down here to mindset, like the nutrition of the tree, how much nutrition that fruit has starts down here in the soil with the mindset. Oops. And then right here, this is the dirt that the tree's planted in. And this is a filter, in the analogy, between our subconscious, oh my gosh, I know how to spell, and our conscious mind. Okay, so there's this filter here, and we're not always fully aware of really what's going on here. Some of the mindset and beliefs that we have go back decades, like maybe to a point when we were 8 and we had some really poignant time or experience in our life that set a mindset for us. Maybe it was a survival mindset because we had some issues with bullying or our parents or a sibling or something. And unfortunately, a lot of us have not updated our mindset and our beliefs since we were like 8 years old. So you're an adult and you're running on 8-year-old programming. It's like having a cell phone, like the iPhone 11 that's trying to run on a 2010 operating system. It's not going to function very well, and it's going to be really prone to breaking down. So as we talk about mindset, we're going to talk about how to get through this filter between the conscious and the subconscious mind, because a lot of people, they're like, well, you have to change your thoughts, and that's in the conscious. You have to change your actions, eat differently. That's also in the conscious, and that'll change your results. But if you're not changing the soil that the root system of belief is in, all this effort is going to not give you the full results that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Okay, thank you. You're
Perfect.
the only I can see to like.
I know. I'm here.
And I'm like used to homeschooling my kids, and they're constantly talking over me, so it's like dead quiet. I'm like, are people even there?
People are so quiet. Yep, everyone's muted, like because they're all into this. I promise.
Okay,
Keep going.
So what we're going to be really focusing on is how do we reprogram that subconscious that we're really not like aware of, but it's driving us. And here's something about our subconscious. It's an excellent servant, but a terrible master. So who was saying this? Like Melissa was saying, you're always in a situation, not always, but a lot of the times in a situation of kind of fight or flight, with your son's issues that he has, and you keep slipping, like you make a little progress and then it goes back, a little progress and it goes back. So that just means that the subconscious hasn't been fully reprogrammed. You're still working in the conscious. If you keep always snapping back to the same place, you're only reprogramming the conscious mind. So there's some little hacks that we can do to get through to the subconscious, because sometimes this filter feels like bedrock, like you can't get through it. But there's hacks that really get through to the subconscious. And then the last thing before we get into this, I want to give an example of this. And it's something that I see, like I really have not seen someone with autoimmune issues whose body is having an autoimmune response who doesn't have a subconscious mindset of lack of worthiness. It's just been this pattern that I see all the time. So it's like a deep-seated lack of worthiness, lack of self-worth issue that the autoimmune is stemming from. So
every single female walking the planet.
Right. Yeah.
Or almost like 99.9% of women. Like, yep.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But it's true, right? Like women have more of these self-worth issues, and we see way more autoimmune expressing in women than men. And so this is just a pattern that I've noticed. So the mindset from somewhere, maybe it's from self, maybe it's from being bullied as a kid, or, you know, your parents weren't really supportive of you, but the mindset says, I am of no worth. Like, I'm too fat, my legs are too long, like my nose is too big, you know, all the tapes that we play. I'm not good enough. So the mind starts attacking self, and you start believing that. And then in the physical, you're having the thoughts and the emotions, and then the body follows where the mind goes. Really, the body can only go where the mind has blazed the trail. And so when we have the deep-seated belief of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm attacking myself with my thoughts, then the body starts attacking self through autoimmune response. And so I never want to work with someone, well, not never, but like, let me rephrase that. I always start with mindset of worthiness with people whose bodies are showing autoimmune response. Because if we're not getting to the root, we're not healing. We're just like trying to shine the moldy fruit on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's just an example. And then I have another personal example in my life, really quick, just to like really solidify this. So this was several months ago. I was like really wanting to post something on my social media page. And it was kind of like, I don't know, controversial. Like I knew some people were not going to love it. And I was a little bit afraid of that. So I held it back. I didn't post it. I didn't speak about it. And so that was my actions. And the result was I've never had canker sores or cold sores in my life, but I broke out in sores all over my mouth to the point where I literally couldn't speak. So that right? Like that holding in all of that energy that I felt like I was supposed to share and keeping myself from speaking, the body physically manifested and kept me from speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So bizarre. And so anyway, just there's so much power in that subconscious area. So let's talk about how we change it because that's the good stuff. The first,
like can I interject really fast?
Please.
Because I love affirmations, I love all of that stuff, but it's all consciousness. It's all consciousness, right? And so it's really like you mentioned earlier, it's like it's really easy to slip back into the old patterns of the subconscious. And even though it's still important to retrain the consciousness, like there's multiple layers that we need to go into deeper. And so I also want to quickly expound on the symbolism of pain in the body, the symbolism of autoimmune, the symbolism of all of that. I used to be a neurostructural massage therapist for 10 years. I was very, and how is this as a woman where it's like we can't like express our traits because it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to think I'm arrogant, but I was really good at my job. And I have this mind thought like, oh, people are going to think I'm arrogant. No, I'm just going to say I was really good at my job. I could read people's bodies really well. Wherever they had pain, I was like, did you go through a divorce recently? Have you been sexually abused? Like, are you having financial issues right now? Because pain manifests the same, like universally. It's very symbolic. Our bodies are so intelligent. And they're literally, we are just literally humming, buzzing energy. An energy that is forming matter or like a resonance of matter. We'll talk about that another time, how we're literally just energy. But anyways, keep going, Aubrey.
Yeah.
The bodies are really cool.
That. It's amazing like how certain areas of the body manifest certain things. Okay, so again, I can't see hands, but have you guys heard of growth mindset versus fixed mindset?
No.
If you haven't. Okay.
I haven't.
And so I've heard of it because I previously had taught elementary school for 10 years. And this was like one of the things that our faculty was really focusing on was how to teach students how to have a growth mindset. So basically growth mindset is like, I can learn to do anything. Like I'm not really good at this skill. I'm not good at cooking. Maybe I can learn to do it. Fixed mindset is just, I'm just not good at that. Like I'll never be good at that. And we all have growth mindset and fixed mindset in different areas of our lives to different varying degrees. But what's really cool is that our body is like, for healing, is like the prime area to have growth mindset. And yet I feel like it's the place where people have the most fixed mindset. Like, oh, it's just genetic. That's a fixed mindset, right? I was just dealt a bad hand. That's a fixed mindset. But a growth mindset is really a healing mindset. And so Zach Bush, if you don't know who he is, get to know Zach Bush. I love him. But he basically says with our stuck genome, we can make 4 million different bodies. So we can have literally with our stuck genome, with your bad genetics or whatever it is, you can literally make through epigenetics, you can make 4 million different physical outcomes. And that to me says that our bodies are the ultimate place to use a growth mindset. So we can activate that with affirmations, like Juanique was talking about. And a lot of affirmations, I feel like it feels really surface and really conscious mind, right? Like you were saying. But there are hacks to get them through the filter into the subconscious to where it's really reprogramming things. This is like so hard with people's videos off. Because I want to know who does that.
Can I invite everyone to put their screens on? Like, if you can, put your screen on. Like, let's connect face to face. Like, let's see all your beautiful faces and get to know you. I also prefer seeing people's faces versus their names. So it's like girls' night out. So welcome everyone. Welcome. Okay. If you guys are able to put your screens on, let's see you. Keep going. Welcome. Okay. Go ahead, Aubrey.
Cool. So raise your hand, like total teacher, you guys. Raise your hand if you have ever used affirmations before, positive affirmations. Has anyone done that? Okay. So almost everybody's hand is up. And yet here we are still struggling to reprogram our subconscious. So does anyone want to share an affirmation that they really like? Maybe you're using it currently. Feel free to unmute
I'll
yourself.
share mine. It was just a YouTube video. It was like 2.5 hours long. And I always listen to the same ones over and over and over. So it could become subconscious because I found every time I was changing them, they didn't feel like they were sticking in. Right? Because I figured I kind of like try to like mind hack myself. And I was like, if I'm saying the same thing over and over again, that's negative and I'm believing it and I'm manifesting it, then what if I did the same thing with positive things and I listened to the same positive things every single day? So it kind of became like a mantra. And as soon as the sentences would start, my mind would finish them. And so I literally listened to the same thing over and over and over a day for months. And I've shared it several times on Instagram. It's like, it's my jam. Like when I'm in a rut, like,
isn't it like
that?
a long, it's like, it's like, not just like one sentence, it's like a long thing, right?
Yep. I listen to it. It's playing in the background. I'm brushing my teeth with it on. Like, I don't listen to the whole thing all the time, but it's like, okay, quickly push play. Where are we at? Oh, okay. Yep. I remember these sentences. And then like my mind is just going with them because again, I listen to them so much that it's like, I almost memorized it. And so it's just like, it was me. I felt like I was snapping into a little bit of the subconscious, but I wasn't like deeply rooted into it. So it's so easy to go back into that conscious mode, right? Or yes, I did well with the consciousness, but I always went back to my old subconscious roots. So, but those were mine. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, does anybody have like a specific affirmation, maybe a sentence? I have certain sentences that I say and that I give to clients that activate healing. So yeah, Sarah?
I have a couple that I have to tell myself a lot. The number one, while I've like been working through a lot of trauma, is I deserve to be heard. Is one that I have to tell myself a lot. Or I deserve love. There's a lot of like, that I tell myself I don't deserve a lot of things or whatever. So I always try to just flip the script and say the opposite of whatever it is.
Yes. So I love this because you are already figuring out the answer to your own question as you do the practice. And I want to go back to that later. And I want to use Sarah's because it was simple. I deserve to be heard. So just because I don't know Juanique's and it's long, but same principle applies. So if you think about how long you've had negative tapes in your brain, it's probably been years, right? Like, and we all have really similar negative tapes in our brains. So if you do the tricycle route of reprogramming the subconscious, you're just gonna do the repetition and try to outplay the negative tape. So it's been playing for this many years, probably more than once a day, like maybe 100 times a day. Maybe you're not even aware of how many times a day. And so if you're just working on the repetition, you're trying to like, let's say you've had 1 million times of saying, I'm not good enough, or nobody hears me in Sarah's example. You'd have to say 1,000,001 times, I deserve to be heard. And also never add on to the nobody hears me track that's going to be super hard. That's the tricycle track. Okay. And that's what most people do for affirmations. But here are the hacks with affirmations that really are going to break through the subconscious, put you in the driver's seat of like a Lamborghini or some super cool car that my son could tell me that I don't know, that's really fast. So the first one is the time of day that you're saying them. And I can tell Juanique's writing, and I love that. Okay, time of day that you're saying them. So the filter between your conscious and subconscious mind is the weakest right when you wake up and right as you're falling to sleep. And have you ever like been laying in your bed, totally zen, relaxed, you're like on the verge of sleep and wake, and you have all these amazing like ideas? Does anyone else do that? And then I wake up into my conscious mind and then they're gone because they were right here at the filter. And so that time, right as you wake up, before you think about your to-do list, and right as you're going to sleep, is when this filter between conscious and subconscious is the thinnest. And you can really do a lot of work and make a lot of progress if you're doing affirmations at those times, right when you wake up. Like maybe before you get out of bed. And then right as you're going to sleep, as you're in bed. So time of day, number one. The second thing, which I feel like is equally as powerful, is using music while you are actually saying your affirmations out loud. So music has been proven to penetrate to the subconscious mind. Like maybe we've all seen The Notebook, and when the piano is playing this, who has seen The Notebook? I want to know if this, okay, all the hands are up. So when, I can't even remember her name, but the old lady, she's got Alzheimer's, she's in the memory care unit. And when the piano song starts playing, that's when she like can remember who her husband is. And it happens. My grandma was in a memory care unit and they use music all the time to help their patients. So using music that does not have lyrics, that has a really uplifting sound to it, while you're saying your affirmations is really, really powerful. I would say that's like the number one way to fast track getting to reprogramming your subconscious mind instead of just your conscious mind. So what I do is I just go on like Spotify and just, I have this favorite one. I can't even remember what it is right now, but I just search, like meditation music is really great. If you have a favorite like movie that's an epic hero movie that has like, the one that's coming to mind is Pirates of the Caribbean. Has a lot of like epic music, or Lord of the Rings, that like epic trailblazer, I'm gonna conquer the quest type of music, that will give you goosebumps when you're doing your affirmations, because it's like, it goes direct. It's almost like that filter just disappears when you use the music. So that's the second. Yeah, Sarah?
So does it need to be the same? Because I remember like in college, everybody said, listen to the same song, and then that will trigger that, whatever you were studying. So does it need to be the same track, or is it just music and just doesn't really matter?
So just music in general. And I would even say like switch it up, because your brain is wired to keep you safe. And I use like air quotes because safe means not changing. And so if you can trick your brain like, oh, we're doing something new today, this is not the same thing we did yesterday, it's just going to penetrate that much faster. And that's probably why I can't even recall the soundtrack that I used, because I don't use the same one every day. I search and just find something new that feels good each day. So yeah, but great question. Great question.
There's another question really fast, Aubrey.
Yeah.
Where does motivation come into place with the filter?
Whoever's question that was, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I really totally feel like where that space in the morning and that space at night, kind of where it's, everything seems clear, and then, when you wake up, or you're about to go to bed and you're like, okay, like I totally understand this. I know what I'm going to do. This all makes sense. And then you wake up, then how does that then how do you keep that understanding and that grasp to where it then becomes motivation and lets you basically do what in your head you already figured out? Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Like, for instance, like as an example, like I'll have, like at the end of the night, like I'll be going to sleep and I'll have like a superb idea or something, you know, like, okay, I'm going to change this up and this would be a really good idea. And then in the morning, I question myself. I'm like, was that really like such a really good idea? You know, and where you're wondering, okay, did that make as much sense as it did while I was falling asleep?
Yes. Okay. So that goes back to Sarah's question that she asked, combating the negative tape. It's just a negative tape of self-doubt and not having a deep mindset of, I trust myself. Like, I got this. So we will, can I like shelf that for a second? Okay. But that's a great question. And I would say too, like, I love keeping a notebook and a pen right by my bed to write things down, because if I don't write it down in the moment, it's gone. Especially
Can I quickly add to that?
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things that myself and our wellness coaches are coming across with our clients is people are not giving themselves permission to trust their bodies and their supplement protocols. So and I always say this, like, I am not the expert in your body, you are. I know protocols and I know patterns, but I don't know the pattern in your body. Like, you know the pattern in your body. So a lot of the times when we do our follow-ups with our clients and people are like, hey, my enzymes are working amazing for me. Can I start coming off of them? And then we turn the question back on. It's like, I don't know, can you? And people are like, well, you're supposed to tell me. I'm like, no, I'm not, because it's not my body. So play around. And they're like, I can't play around with this. And I'm like, you absolutely can. It's your body. It's your rules. You're feeling amazing. Like, start playing around. Come off of it. If you crash and burn, go back on it. But they're waiting for their consults for me to give them that permission. So what I want to tell you right now, save $60 and give yourself permission, right? Like, just save some money and just give yourself permission to be like, I'm the captain of this ship. Like, I got this. And that is the biggest thing that we see in people's, as they start like this healing journey, they start slowly like trusting, like, oh, my body can make changes. Oh, my body can heal. Oh, I can now give myself permission to stop a supplement. What? Like, what's happening here? I spoke last week about how Melissa, I gave her like a protocol in food and like it didn't go well. And she mentioned that. I'm like, oh, do you see how I messed up? See, I don't know everything, but she knows her bodies and she knows her capabilities. So she went back to what worked for her. Like, she kind of dug down deep and she was like, you know what? This was working for me. You told me to do this and I couldn't do it. So I went back to what worked and it's still working. And I was like, see, she gave herself permission to change even without me saying yes or no. And so what I want to say is practice trusting yourself, practice trusting your body. And I think Aubrey's going to give us more tools in that, but that's what we see a lot is people waiting for their coaches to give them permission to try something new or give them permission to trust their selves and trust their ideas and trust their bodies. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to add on to that too. I think that trust is like a muscle. It has to be exercised and built up over time. And that's a huge leap of faith. Like, we've been conditioned to not trust ourselves, especially with our bodies, right? Like, how dare we trust ourselves and not our doctor or whoever? And so we put in all this external trust and we're really good at that. But then the internal trust it needs to be developed like a muscle. Absolutely. Okay, so, and great question. And when we go over Sarah's question, Rachel, about stopping the negative tape, take notes on that too. It's a really, really great strategy that you can do. So we've talked about time of day. We've talked about music. And the third thing that you can do is add in movement. So when I first started doing affirmations, I was like, I had never done it before. Actually, I had, and they felt super awkward. And like, I was like, this is icky. I'm not doing it. But then when I learned about how to actually do them correctly, I was like, I'm all in. So I actually choreographed my affirmations to a yoga sun salutation. And I made sure that it flowed. Like, I rewrote it a bunch of times and it had the right rhythm with my sun salutation. and I put on the music, and I did it first thing in the morning and right before bed. So adding in movement, and that could just be walking, because movement just moves energy through our body, right? It detoxes negative energy and it brings in good energy. So if you walk in the morning or during exercise, you can use the music and say the affirmations and be moving. And that again, it's another way to expedite the process. It's like turning on the NOS in Fast and Furious on your car. Just like get going faster through the subconscious. The last thing you can do, and this is like totally, if you want to be silly, this actually works. And it goes back to what Sarah said about, do I use the same music every time or do I change it up? Remembering that our brain wants to keep us safe, which just means not changing, not like intentionally changing. Using different voices when you do your affirmations actually tricks your brain and gets through the subconscious faster. And if it feels weird to say the affirmation in your own voice, like when I started, I, for some reason, like gravitated toward a Southern Belle accent and a very British nanny accent. And both of those things, like, it didn't feel awkward because I was like, well, it's not me saying it. And then my brain realizes, oh, this is not you saying it. So it gets through that filter. So those are the 4 ways to expedite the process. I'll repeat them one more time. Time of day, first thing in the morning, first thing at night. Adding in really empowering music as you're saying the affirmations out loud, adding in movement, and then if you want to be silly, use funny voices. And Juanique, is there a way, so I have like healing affirmations that I've crafted that, can we put them in the group somewhere? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. We can put them in the Facebook group and then send them over to Tebecca to make a post in the Instagram group as well. And then as you create your course, like your few weeks courses in this, we can put that in the course as well, like with your slides and the handouts for the membership and all of that. But yeah, so send it over to me and then we'll make some posts in it of it. Okay. Can I add one thing to your list there? And you can tell me if this is like true or not. I did this like expedited like weekend retreat on like emotional healing. And I found how breath really helps to move energy, breathing, yawning. And so I used to just be like a small, where you're like, but I realized whenever I felt anxiety, I would take a deep breath. And I like, and it was exaggerated. And I just imagined like just blowing this out like a gale force, right? And so I don't know if that helps anyone, but every time I feel the anxiety, I'm like, I can feel it building up in my body. And what I would used to do is squish it down, right? Like tie that lid on tighter, you know, but no, what I realize now is I got to move it through me. As soon as like bad thought comes through or anxiety comes through or like thoughts that provoke anxiety come through, all I do is I say to myself, this isn't me. This doesn't belong to me. And I'll just release it. And like, that can be like an arm flush, that can be standing up and doing like this. If I'm in the office and I'm just triggered by like what something like something a client said, I just take a deep breath. And I just breathe. I just breathe it out. Breath is energy, right? And breath, it goes into your body and flushes out of your body. It's the one thing that goes in and out really fast. So let it go in, let it go out. This doesn't belong to me. Like, this anxiety isn't mine. This anxiety is just being created. And that has helped me a ton. That has helped me so much. So whenever like these thoughts come through, I love everything that you've put, like the music, the time of the day. But I just want to add the breath part. If that's okay, can I add the breath part to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's funny that you say that, because I think that's why I choreographed my affirmations to a sun salutation, because it was very controlled breathing through the yoga practice.
Yeah.
And okay, like breath is our number 1 nutrient. We can only live for a few minutes without it. So it's extremely important. And one of the affirmations that I have written that I share with clients is, with every exhale, I release stress and dis-ease. With every inhale, I channel connection, love, and health to every cell. So it's like there's a purpose, a cleansing purpose with those breaths, just like you were saying.
So with every exhale, I release what?
stress, and dis-ease. I
Okay, I'm
don't
just
like
putting
the
this in
word
the thing.
disease.
Oh, I spelled it wrong.
Dis-ease.
Sorry, guys. Diseased. So, and with every inhale,
Let's see, where to go. I channel connection, love, and health to every cell.
okay, I like that. Awesome.
So, okay, now before we go on to the questions, I have one more thing. I want to talk about the sociopaths of affirmations. And you may have said them. I may have said them in my past. And it's things like this. I am an autoimmune warrior. I am a cancer warrior. Those are the sociopaths, like the Ted Bundys. I'm going to be like super charismatic and date you and then murder you. That's that affirmation right there. And I want to explain why. Because affirmations, they become true, right? So if our affirmation is, I am an autoimmune warrior, I'm just going to use that because it's something that a lot of people struggle with. What that is inviting is for you to keep being a warrior. And that's not healing. If you're constantly fighting, you're not healing. You're just fighting. And I see people do this all the time, like in their social media profiles, their little bio about themselves is like, you know, cancer warrior or whatever. And they're not like, it's really well-meaning. And that's why I say they're the sociopath of affirmations, because as long as that diagnosis is in the identity, is in the affirmation, it's not healing. It's staying put right there. It's like you're chained to it. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Okay. And that's something that's hard to do because people's identity is so tied a lot of the times to what their body is struggling with. It's like who they are. But getting that out of the affirmation, and like, I'm like, why do we have to say I'm an autoimmune warrior? Like, just, I'm a warrior. Like, or I'm a cancer thriver. Just, I'm a human thriver. Just get the cancer out of there. Just thrive in general. So I wanted to mention that. And that's something that I actually posted about, and I got a lot of backlash about that, which just shows how really strongly tied people's identities are to those diagnoses and the conditions that they are struggling with. So, okay. So let's talk about Sarah's question, and then we'll go through the questions now. Are we okay on time? This is going kind of long.
We always go over. So
Okay.
You're great. Like, and if people need to go, they just leave. And if they want to come in, they just come in. So I just like to have this organically happen. And sometimes we go in for an hour and a half. So we're good.
Okay, awesome.
If you see me like jumping out, it's because I'm making sure my kids are still here because they're awfully quiet. And I'm like, they're normally like bugging me every 10 minutes. So I'm like, is everyone still here? Like, what's happening? So launch into your questions. I'll be right back.
Okay. So this, oh, sorry, something's printing. It's going to be loud for a second. I hope this is something that's beneficial for everyone, because we all struggle, especially as we're reprogramming our subconscious. That old tape keeps trying to creep back in. It's like that force of opposition in the universe. It just keeps trying to combat us and keep us where we are. And so this is a strategy called a truth and lies journal that I just, unless I'm like really struggling, I just do it mentally now, and I can catch it. I'm like, ooh, I see you. I'm not letting that happen. Not up in here. Unless I'm really struggling, then I write it down. But when I first started doing this, I wrote it down and I had a journal that I kept. So I would suggest like choose a notebook that you only use for the truth and lies strategy. And what you're going to do, so if this is a page of your notebook, you're going to divide it in half vertically. And truth goes on the right side and lies goes over here. So I guess it's like a lies and truth journal, but that doesn't sound as positive as a truth and lies journal. So, and I'm going to give an example of something that a lie that was trying to bombard me today, which was, and I'm going to be totally vulnerable right here in this space with you guys because it has to do with this Zoom right now. So I don't deserve to be coaching on mindset. So some sort of negative force is trying to talk me out of this very Zoom that we're having right now. And I can recognize that as a lie because I've worked so hard on this. So what you do, and Sarah, this seems like, and I want to use, if we can, if you're comfortable, like a personal example with you in a minute, and then Rachel, I want to do what you were talking about earlier too. But I'll do mine first. So what we do is we reverse engineer this, because if this is the lie, then the opposite is true. So we just have to reverse engineer this, and maybe if it's really strong, we're like going to add on some really positive stuff. So I don't deserve to be coaching on mindset. The truth would be, I absolutely deserve to be coaching on mindset. And I always add an and, because I just like want to evict this thought like just so fast. So I'm going to add an and. This information is going to expedite people's healing. Okay, so do you see how I reverse engineered it and then added on something extra positive? So Sarah, do you feel comfortable sharing?
Yes, but I can't promise I won't cry. I feel like group therapy. One of the like most prevailing ones, and probably a lot of other moms feel this too, is I hear all the time in my head, your kids deserve a better mom. They deserve a more patient mom. Or, basically, they deserve a better mom is what I hear almost every day.
Me too, friend.
Me too.
Me too.
You're not alone. And okay, so like the first thing is to recognize that's a lie. That's a lie from, the force of opposition. If you're religious, it's from the opposite of God. Whatever you believe, it's a lie from the force of opposition in the universe, trying to keep you small and keep you from excelling at whatever you're put on this earth to do. So we reverse engineer it. So Sarah, what would be the reverse of this to you? And it's okay if if it's hard to say. If it makes you cry, it's okay.
Yeah. My kids deserve me.
Okay, love that.
I want to add to that too. I am the perfect person to be raising these children.
Yeah. So that would be the and, right? So we reverse engineer it, and I am the perfect person. And I'm going to actually change that and say mom. Just because that resonates with me more, and I'm writing it. You could be in charge of it when you're writing it.
Perfect.
To raise these children. And I'm going to add on to it because I think all the moms in all the world of all history have maybe dealt with this lie. And something that I've realized is that my kids are here for it, for my mission. And that like makes me cry to know that like they're here to be here for what I need to do. Yeah. And not in a selfish way, but in a let's kick the mom guilt to the curb way. Okay, so does that make sense, Sarah, how we reverse engineer it and add on to it?
Yeah, I like the addition.
Yeah, it's way more powerful because you can't just like one up the opposition because then you're still here. You have to go further. Okay, so Rachel, I want to, so your lie was, sorry. Your lie was you had a really inspirational thought at night as you were going to bed. And by the morning, what was the thought?
Well, I think the lie I feel, and Sarah, like I completely have that thought every single day, and I have 4, so I feel like 4 times the worst. But I feel like my lie is I can't change the path that I was put on from an early age. Like I don't have the strength to make those changes.
Okay. So I can't change the path I was put on, and I don't have the strength I'm like not even writing real words to make changes. Okay, so Rachel, how would you reverse engineer that?
That I am my own person and can change my own destiny, my own path. I'm not sure of like an and, but
Okay, and so part of it is the strength, like it feels exhausting to you, right? To make
yes.
these changes and do a complete lifestyle overhaul. It feels exhausting.
Well, it feels unnatural.
Okay.
Like it does, it feels completely like against like what I guess I, for the first whatever, 20, 9 years of my life, has been indoctrinated into me, that this is how it is. It's very confusing.
So,
and that I could be wrong. Like, does that make sense? Like where the lie is like, I could be, what I think is it, I could be wrong. Because there's so much information. Right. It's like, okay, well, how do you find out the truth, and what is your truth?
Yeah. So, and that's what this helps us narrow in on is what is our truth, because the lies actually can become wings when we realize what they are. And they're really just like telling us our truth, but in code. So it's like, and now because I've done this so long, I'm like, ooh, I see you. I know the truth of this because you told me a lie. So I would add on to this, and I'm trying to make it something that's not going to feel like too much of a stretch for you, because when there's a Grand Canyon between where you are and what you're saying, it's really hard. That it's like too big of a jump. So
I wonder too, Rachel, tell us if this resonates with you, because it sounds like healing and changing is really complex and overwhelming. And part of this like truth can be healing and changing is actually really simple. It's like we've tried to overcomplicate it, right? Like there are all these experts with opposing views, and it's really simple. It's switching this for that, or it's making 3 changes a week, or but and it's your truth, it's your pace, it's what feels authentic to you. And so maybe starting to rewrite that lie and being like, I can't trust this, and it's way too hard, and like, how do you know what's real? And then the truth can be, this is actually very simple, and I have all the knowledge I need at my fingertips to make the right choices and changes for my family. And trusting that, right? Trusting that you are the expert. I don't know. Aubrey, am I on the right track with this?
No, I love it. I didn't have space. So, and I love what Juanique was saying, like, it has to resonate with you. And when I first started doing my truth and lies, I rewrote the truth. Like, it looked like chicken scratch. You couldn't even read it. But it has to really resonate inside deep in you. So what I'm writing right here, if it doesn't feel like it resonates with you, that's okay, because I'm not you. And this is
the pace thing definitely resonated, Juanique, with that I can do this at my own pace too. That I feel like that's, yeah, that would be a good truth for myself, that it's, you know, it doesn't have to be 100% of the time.
Exactly. Because sometimes we feel like we have to be purists, right? And we don't. We absolutely do not. And so you can say healing is actually very simple. And so, and I start healing myself by just adding my super smoothie every day. Or healing is actually really simple. And I start healing myself by eating 8 servings of vegetables a day, and see which one like resonates with you. I want to kind of give you this example, just a little bit of a stray. I had a mom, and I've shared this before. A mom came to me with her daughter, who was like 14 at the time, and said, "Hey, can you tell my daughter to stop eating sugar?" And one, I eat sugar, so I'm not going to tell someone else to stop eating sugar, right? Especially a 14-year-old, because this is how we have eating disorders. So I said, no, I'm not going to tell her that. But what I am going to tell her is, eat that tub of ice cream after you eat your big plate of vegetables, and after you eat your green smoothie, and after you do this, you know? So do what resonates with you. Like, hey, let's eat our vegetables and our green smoothie, and then let's still make our healthy cookies at the end of the day, because that's what resonates with you, and that's what brings joy. But guess what? You are also nurturing your body with the healthy food too, because what feels authentic to you right now is the happy food, right? What you have associated happiness with is the treats. So let's modify those treats a little bit. Treats can be healing. Like, make some coconut flour cookies, lots of fiber, lots of healthy fats, sweeten it with a little bit of maple, which has a lot of vitamins and minerals. Why isn't that healthy? Is it because it's a cookie? We changed the ingredients. They're healthy now, or healthier, right? It's not broccoli, but it's not like a Twinkie, right? So desserts can be healthy. So, hey, I had my green smoothies this morning. I had my 8 servings of vegetables. I'm eating my cookie. This is easy. Does that resonate with you, Rachel?
It absolutely does. It completely, it changes it, especially with, as I'm trying to incorporate like my family, you know, into my healing journey. And literally my twins are in the other room making cookies or pumpkin bars that have no nutritional whatsoever value. And I'm cringing, thinking like, okay, but how can this change? Because this is an activity that they're doing with friends, and, you know, like, okay, where does my journey, you know, yeah, that absolutely, that all makes complete sense.
My Wonderful cookbook has actually like health bars, like pumpkin bars that are no bake. I also have a dessert cookbook that I released during the holidays. That's a downloadable. If you go to Pinterest, you can find a bunch of recipes that are a lot healthier, have less sugar. You know, like, there's resources and tools. Still enjoy food. Life is to be enjoyed. Food is to be enjoyed, right? And sometimes we feel that like healing is going into this like food prison forever, and it's not, right? Like, if people are saying, I want to heal my autoimmune disease in the next 6 months, then I'm going to tell them, yeah, let's get into food prison for this short duration of time. Like, if you want to accelerate your healing journey to 6 months, then let's go, right? But if that doesn't resonate with you, and you're like, I want to heal, but I want to do it over the next 3 to 5 years, let's go at your pace. Let's not sprint. Let's just jog. You know what I mean? Until it resonates, and it resonates on every level, every cell, right? Because if you try to force something that doesn't feel authentic, that doesn't resonate with you, it's like trying to be friends with everyone on the playground, and you're like, you know what? I just don't get along with everyone, right? Like, and sometimes we just don't. So maybe for you right now, like, expediting your healing journey just doesn't resonate. Maybe in 2 years' time it will. Because life is not now. Like, we got time. We got time. So do what resonates now. It's easy. It's simple. Just eat 8 servings of vegetables a day. Enjoy your treats at the end of the day. Just modify them. They can be healthy. There's no reason why treats can't be healthy. And there you go. That's my little soapbox.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. Go ahead, Aubrey. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize at all. I think it's great. Like, this is the mindset work, you know, it feels a little bit like therapy, but it's getting through like really what's the issue. And I keep feeling, Rachel, it's a trusting in yourself. I think that's going to be a powerful affirmation for you, is I trust myself and where I'm at.
Yes.
And
Yes.
getting comfortable with that.
Yes.
Exercising that trust muscle.
Just because you are in this membership and you're listening, it doesn't mean all the changes have to happen in the 6 months here. What you're doing is you are creating a foundation. You know, when you plant a seed and it sits in the soil and nothing happens for weeks, it's because roots are sprouting. You're creating roots right now. And the stronger those roots are, the more they resonate with you, the stronger your tree is going to be, the stronger your plant is going to be. If we try to speed that root up, if we try to if we try to speed up that seed, like, it's going to die. Like, the plant is going to die. It's going to fall over with the first wind. So we got to grow roots that resonate with you on every single level. We got to create belief systems that work for you. All right. Just because you're in this membership, like, you know, it's not the Aubrey show. It's not the Juanique show. It's the Rachel Moon show. And so you're going to take information, and some of the stuff you're going to file for later, and some of the stuff you're going to implement now, and some of the stuff you're going to start practicing, and some of your old habits are going to come back, and that's okay, because we're human. But it's as long as we're moving forward, and then we move back, and then we move forward, and then we move back, and then that's life. All right. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. All right. Because we all, no one eats perfectly. No one. All right. And that's okay. And it always has to be okay. It's all okay. There you go. That's it. Sorry.
It goes back to the word that we started with, which is metanoia. It's the journey of change. It's not the act of change. It's the whole journey. And being okay, being on the journey, on the quest, and not having to be at the summit or even at the next rest stop. Like, we're just on the trail, enjoying the scenery. So okay, I want to go back to this because we're not done. There's a little bit more that we do. So I try to choose 5 lies that are really recurring in my head. If 5 is too many, do 3. If 3 is too many, do 2. You know, modify, make it your pace. But after I've gotten them all, then what I do, and keep in mind, this is like in a notebook where I have all of this. And actually, so I forgot to tell you something. I always do it on the back side of the page because we're going to rip it in a minute. So, or you could do truth on this. It doesn't matter. But anyway, for the purposes of the whiteboard, after we do this, we're going to rip off in the notebook. I'm just going to erase the lies. And this is a very cleansing practice. So in the notebook, we would rip or cut if you are really not a good ripper. But just rip down the page and then take the lies and rip them to shreds. And I've taught my daughter to do this. She has struggled with a lot of anxiety, a lot of negative tapes in her brain from I don't know where, but I've taught her to do this. You can teach your kids to do this. It's super powerful. They love ripping the paper. And then you can just throw it away. She wants to burn it. So we put it in a little bowl and I literally let her light it on fire and watch the lies burn. And as they're burning or as you're ripping, I repeat to myself, I manage my emotions. My emotions don't manage me. I manage my emotions. My emotions don't manage me. And you're really just like being like, no, I am not ruled by this. I'm in charge. My mind is an excellent servant and I'm the master of it. I manage my emotions. My emotions don't manage me. And then we're left with this glorious list of truths. And we repeat these each 3 times. And again, we're going to use those tools of music and maybe movement as you're doing, maybe a voice if you want to. So I would say to myself 3 times, I absolutely deserve to be coaching on mindset, and this information is going to expedite people's healing. I absolutely deserve to be coaching on mindset, and this information is going to expedite people's healing. I absolutely deserve to be coaching on mindset, and this information is going to expedite people's healing. 3 times. Then move on to the next one. Sarah, it's your turn. If you want to. Because this one's yours. I don't know if you can read it. Can you
don't
read
want
it?
to say it? Well, I wrote it down, so. My kids deserve me, and I'm the perfect person to be their mom, and they are here to further my mission. My kids deserve me, and I'm the perfect person to be their mom, and they are here to further my mission. My kids deserve me, and I'm the perfect person to be their mom, and they are here to further my mission.
So I want to pause on that before we get to Rachel's. You're getting emotional.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. When you get emotional doing, and I'm emotional too, because I felt it through the screen.
I did too.
So
Yeah. I got chills. I got
know.
chills. I'm like, oh, this feels so good. I wanted you to just keep saying it. Because I felt it through my body, and I'm like, I am the perfect person to raise my kids. Like, they do deserve me, and I deserve them. Like it just felt really good hearing that. So I felt it.
It's amazing how we can connect through a Zoom. But when you get emotional, you've breached the filter between conscious and subconscious. That's how you know that you're getting sorry, I'm so emotional, but that's how you know that you're getting real work done. And it's also how you know when you're in the conscious mind. If it's not feeling emotional, you're just like, my kids deserve me. Like, it doesn't feel anything. You're not changing anything. It's just words. Mm-hmm. So be aware of that and strive for the cry. Like, go for the cry. Okay, so Rachel, did you write your own, or because I love that, Sarah, you put it into your own words on your own paper?
I haven't yet, but that is a great idea, Sarah. I haven't yet.
Okay, but you understand the concept. I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to.
No, I don't mind reading it.
Okay, I will try to move my computer so that you can see it. So I wrote down, yours starts on red. I wrote down, I trust myself, I am my own person and can change my own path and have, that's not a word, and have the strength to make simple changes one day at a time. So if you want to say that 3 times, if you can read it.
Okay. I trust myself. I am my own personal, I'm my own person and can change my own path and have the strength to make simple changes a day at a time. I trust myself. I am my own person and can change my own path and have the strength to make simple changes a day at a time. I trust myself, and I am my own person and can change my own path and have the strength to make simple changes a day at a time.
Awesome. So how did that feel for you when you were saying it?
It felt like permission.
Beautiful.
Like personal permission, that I'm not held to the belief in your tree, you know. It felt like I don't have to hold on to that belief, that I can give myself permission.
I love that. That's beautiful. I'm just in awe that you guys were brave enough to do that in front of a group of people that you probably don't know very well. So that's the strategy. And then in your notebook, you're left with a bunch of half pages of truths about yourself, that if you're ever having a bad day, just go flip through the half pages and see all the truths that the lies have uncovered about you. And I love this strategy because it turns the lies into a positive, like, oh, I get it. Thank you, lie, for telling me, for routing me to a truth. So does anyone have any questions on that strategy?
Can I add something? Mm-hmm. I liked how you thanked the lie. Thank you, lie, for helping me remember who I really am. Yeah. Thank you, lie, for helping remind me what my truth is. Thank you, lie, for helping me steer my course or reminding me of my capabilities. You know what I mean? It served a purpose. And that purpose was for reprogramming and rerouting. And
Yeah,
so
just like
it's,
I think we should thank our symptoms because
Mhm.
they're just a sacred messenger of something that needs to change.
Yes. Like
So,
there are signs that there is dysfunction and that yeah, like something needs to change. So that was awesome. This has been so awesome.
this is like the stuff that I love. So I want to go back to the other questions. Sarah, do you feel like that answered your question on how to combat the negative track? Okay. And like I said, so when I first started doing this, I made it a daily practice. It took me about 15 or 20 minutes that I needed to set aside. It made me aware of the lies because sometimes like they're in our own voice, in our own head. It sounds like it's us talking to ourselves, but really it's like this really deceptive, it's a force of opposition that uses our own voice against us. And now because I feel like I've mastered this practice, I just do it in my head immediately. Like it's this immediate defense response, protecting my mindset and protecting my subconscious. And then, like I said, if I'm having a bad one that like keeps coming up and it's giving me anxiety and like really dragging me down, I do go ahead and write it down. I still do that. Okay, so I want to kind of go through the order. So Melissa, you were asking about with your son, always kind of being in a fight or flight state and you make a little progress and then just like, the progress is gone. Am I repeating it right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think what's happening is you're not getting into the subconscious with the change. And just like Juanique was talking about, when you plant a seed, the roots grow first and you don't really see it. That is to give the whole tree stability. So if we go back, I'm just going to draw a really quick tree. This is fancy. There's a tree. But we've seen this. I don't know where you guys live. Juanique and I are in Utah, but we had some really severe windstorms lately that knocked out tons of really mature trees, like completely uprooted them. And so I feel like what's happening with you, Melissa, in your case, is the roots are just not strong enough. And then the wind of all the chaos with your son comes through and it just uproots your tree every time. And then you're like, I gotta plant the tree again. Does that feel like a good analogy? Okay.
Yeah.
So doing more of this root mindset work, like we've talked about with the affirmations and adding in music, adding in movement, making sure you're doing them every day is really going to help those roots grow, keep growing little roots. It's going to help the tap root grow longer so that the tree is more stable in the ground for when the wind comes, it's not going to be uprooted. Another thing and I love analogies because like everything in the micro is in the macro and it's all the same and it's all the lessons. But another thing my husband and I have learned, so we just moved into this house that has mature trees and our neighbors are all like really concerned that the tree's gonna end up in their roof. And so we've had some arborists come and look at it and they're like, yeah, you could trim a few branches. So what the other thing besides growing the roots that gives the tree stability is selectively trimming branches that aren't serving the strength of the tree. So in your life, you could look at selectively trimming out, and remember that the branches are like our actions and our, our effort. So any actions or habits that aren't serving the health of your tree, you have permission to trim them to give better support and balance to your tree. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like the like lies, truth and lies is a huge piece too, because it's like something new will come up and it's like, oh, I'm not equipped to handle this. Like I can't handle this. Or, oh, he deserves a mom who can advocate better. He deserves a mom who can not freak out every time something new pops up. So I think that as well, and that I think at trimming, I know for a fact that that's something that I need to do. So both of those things are really helpful.
Good. And that truth and lies, like, isn't that funny? We all have that same track. Like, we think they're unique to us in our situation, but like it's the same for most humans. I think that truth and lies will be really powerful because it puts you in your power of recognizing the truth that your son was brought to you for a reason. Like, you are the mom, the only mom out of 7. So I'm crying again. I told Juanique I cry a lot, but out of 7 billion people on the planet, you're the one that he was meant to come to. And reiterating that truth to yourself, like, that's your taproot right here that's going to hold the tree so strong when the wind blows. So, and deep breaths, and I'm going to stop crying. Okay. Okay, do you feel like good on that?
Yeah, and I'm not going to talk because I'll start crying too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable and asking the question too, anyone who asked a question.
You guys remember, crying is just energy moving. It's just energy. Like, it's just coming out because it needed to. Like, it just had to, it needs to go somewhere, right? So as that energy moves, make sure you're very intentional about the energy that you replace it with those truths, right? Because you're being reminded of your own awesomeness. Like, that seems like such a cheap word to use in this moment, but like, you are so capable, and you're just remembering that you are. And that's why we're weeping. That's why we're moving, because that is how God, or the universe, that's how it moves through us. All right. And it's just energy. So let it flow and let it go, and then replace it with the truth. Okay. Because like, once you start sloughing off all of these lies, at the center of it is the heart, and the heart never lies. And so we're just replacing it with all of this truth. Right. I hope that made sense. I don't know if it did. One thing I want to add to this is, and this has been like hitting my head so many times as we're talking about this, and so I feel like I need to say it. How many people do you know go to the gym like 2 hours a day? Yes, like, we all know that person. Can you imagine if we took that 120 minutes and we split it into 3, and we spent 40 minutes at the gym, 40 minutes doing our truth lies and our meditation, and then 40 minutes food prepping? Can you imagine like the superhuman we would be, right? We're food prepping healthy food. We're making a soup. We're cutting up vegetables for dinner that night. We're doing a power 40-minute workout. And then we're doing 40 minutes of meditation and writing down our truths and our lies. And we're repeating them to ourselves. And then we're doing a 10-minute like deep breathing meditation. That split in energy is so much more conducive to a healing response in the body than hitting the gym for 2 hours a day. So I want you guys to remember that, because as you were going through this, my first response, that lie, was, oh, this is going to take me way too long. I'm like, wait a second. It really takes 20 minutes, and maybe even 5, maybe even 10. You know what I mean? Like, we got to prioritize this. Because people are more than happy to pay hundreds of dollars at the gym. People are more than happy to go and spend 2 hours getting their hair colored. People are more than happy to spend an hour getting their nails done. But what about that 10 minutes a day that sets you in the right track, right? We got to prioritize this. We got to like exercise that brain muscle, that spiritual muscle, that emotional muscle. We got to turn that weak emotional, I don't want to say weak because no one's weak, but we have those weakened belief systems we've allowed to just come in there, right? So we got to exercise that emotional muscle to get stronger and stronger and reinvigorate ourselves and like strengthen those truths within every single cell in our body. And so we got to prioritize that just as much as we do spending time in the kitchen, and just as much as we do spending time in the gym. And that's it.
Yes.
That's all I want to say. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Rachel.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I'm in South Carolina, so I've had my kids with me for 7 months, 24/7, and it feels like a lot that now that we're coming out of it, to be like, okay, after all this time, to give permission to be like, okay, I can try to take care of myself. It almost is now almost a foreign concept that I have to retrain myself into. And I don't know if anybody else feels like that with kids and virtual learning, and everybody's trying to do what they can, because we're still 100% virtual right now. But yeah, trying to figure out, okay, can I start my day with me and not with my kids or my husband?
Like, isn't that weird how we think it's selfish? Like, where did that get groomed into us? Where, oh my gosh, how dare you turn the TV on for 10 minutes and turn your kids into zombies for 10 minutes while you work on you? How dare you? Right? Isn't that weird? Go turn that TV on, lock them in their rooms. I don't know what you have to do, but work on you, because a happy mom is a happy house, right?
Yeah.
When mom's happy, kids are happy. When mom's happy, husband's happy, right? Like, we got to prioritize ourselves. But I totally get that. Because children are hungry, right? Guess what? They're not going to starve. They'll still live. You know what I mean? Like you are, and that's probably that's one of your lies. I'm not worthy to start with myself in the morning. And then you can change that to, I am the perfect person to start my day off with.
I love that.
I love myself enough to do it every single day. And I'm going to practice this every day, so it's ingrained in every single cell in my body.
I love that.
Does that make sense? Because that's your lie. Your lie is, I'm not worthy to start my day off with just me. I am absolutely worthy and the right person to start my day off with. Because guess what? At the end of the day, there's only you. Like, this life, we need to learn to have a love affair with ourselves. Because what do? We bleed our energy to everyone around us. And guess what? They're all going to ebb and flow in your life. And when they do, they take your energy and your power with you. So when you're bleeding into other people that ebb and flow out of your life and then they leave, you are this empty vessel. So you got to fall in love with yourself. You have to, because at the end of the day, it's only you. There's a book called The Untethered Soul. And the question in chapter number 1 or 2, it says, who are you? Well, I'm Juanique. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. And it's like, yeah, but were you always a mom? Were you always a wife? Who are you? And it's like, well, I'm X weight and I'm so tall and it's just like, well, have you always been that weight? Have you always been that tall? Have you always been that person in this moment? No. Okay. Who are you? Right. And so you go down this channel well, who am I? Well, there's just me. There's just me sitting in this seat of the soul. And I need to rediscover myself and have this love affair with myself again, because at the end of the day, when I die, it's just me with me, right? At the end of the day, when things get hard, it's me that I have to rely on. I can't rely on my kids. Sometimes we can rely on our spouses, and we have our people that we rely on, but they have their battles too. So sometimes we can't rely on them. So we gotta reinvest in ourselves, because people will let us down because they're human, right? We can't let ourselves down. We can never, ever let ourselves down. We got to fall in love with ourselves again. And I think that's one of the hardest lessons that we learn as human beings. I don't know if that made any sense, but it's weird, right? How dare I have time for myself? How dare I say something positive about myself? I was a great neurostructural massage therapist. Who are you to say that, right? No, we got to say these things about us. We have to. We got to pat ourselves in the back and be like, I killed it today. I did so awesome. Even though I lost my mind because my kids were driving me nuts, I still showed up. I still fed them. I still did my affirmations. I show up for myself every single day. And that's awesome.
And I want to say something too. I love that. Preach on. And especially for women, I think we all need that preached every day. And I kept thinking of, have you guys ever played with oobleck? It's cornstarch and water.
Yes.
And you push and it becomes solid, but if there's no pressure on it, it just like loses its form entirely. And I realized in my life, so it's called a non-Newtonian fluid, just so you know. But I realized like I was becoming this non-Newtonian fluid. Like I could only hold shape and identity when other people and other things were pushing on me. And as soon as the pressure went off, I was like, wait, what is going on? And it's like this complete loss of identity almost. And so I've had to retrain myself to be a solid figure, not a non-Newtonian fluid that needs pressure to hold its form. And it was hard. It was hard. But it just takes a lot of time with yourself, only yourself, and getting deep in you.
Like,
okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just, so Bree had she's still on, yeah. She had a question about letting go of trauma. And I want to address that just to the extent of what I know. I don't know a ton with trauma, but I think that we hold on to trauma because we've made it part of our identity. It's a little bit of a victim mentality. And by holding on to it, it's saying that mattered, that I struggled through that, dang it. And being able to release it is hard because it's almost like saying, oh, that didn't matter. But it's not saying that. It's like that mattered, that brought me to a new level, and now I can release it. It served me, and trying to find the way that it served you. And I don't know, Bree, if you can turn on your camera or turn on your mic, but how does that feel?
That feels good. I understand. That makes sense to me. I guess like the victim mentality a bit, because I'm on the opposite end of it. And when I think of that, my mother has always played the victim. So it's like been ingrained in me my entire 36 years. So that really makes sense. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean,
I think, rewriting trauma and just saying, I experienced trauma, and it helped me learn how to connect with others, because the truth is everyone experiences trauma. Like if you're not human if you haven't gone through hard times, right? And so trauma can help us be more human. And so instead of being like, I'm like, trauma writes me, it's saying, no, I'm rewriting the story of what trauma has done with me. And trauma has taught me this. And trauma has taught me to be stronger. And trauma has taught me to do this. And I release it. I release its grasp on me. So like with those truth lies, I don't know what that language around it would look like. Aubrey, maybe you can help coach us through that. But like just rewriting the story around trauma. Like for instance, I always talk about the cancer trauma with Tristan, right? I always talk about that. And it's still a big part of me every single day. But it has also been the driving force. I could have used Tristan's story and we could have told we could have been on a very different pathway, right? And just been like, okay, we're just gonna let this happen and like listen to doctors, but we rewrote the story. And it's like, yeah, I still experience this cancer trauma every day with him. Like it's still really, really hard, but you know what? It's the fuel to my flames, because I'm going to scream from the rooftops that people need to take their power back. And when I have people tell me that I'm inflammatory, that's just going to fuel me even more, because people need to know, this, right? So that they can prevent this from happening. And so I don't know, Aubrey, tell me if I'm like totally damaging this story, but like using your experience to create an empowering story for you and releasing that trauma. Go ahead, Sarah.
Mike. Yeah, so I have a question that's rooted in that. So how do you move from like, I have this trauma and so I earned, where it's like a trophy, like I earned where I am today because I went through this trauma. How do you move from using it as like your credibility and like it's something that I earned, being where I am, to using it like Juanique, like you're saying, using it as fuel I don't know. So how do you move away from the, dang it, I went through this trauma, now I earned my spot? Like, how do you let go of the trauma and just be okay with who you are without it?
I think it's like we talked about with the lies and the symptoms manifesting in our body, just thinking it. Like, change the lens on it. Instead of a negative lens, look at it through a positive lens, which is really hard to do. But giving ourselves permission to even change the lens, right? Because that's a huge step, looking at it positively. So I have a personal experience with that like my daughter, she's had a lot of health issues, and I mean, it's cost us thousands of dollars and all this time and like years off my life, blah, 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 sob story victim. And, but really she's been, and her issues have been my wayfinder. So looking at trauma as the wayfinder and the compass, instead of throwing you off the track, maybe the track you were on wasn't the right one. And there had to be some like radical shift to get you onto the right one. And just giving yourself permission to maybe view it through a different lens.
And using it as the compass and not the excuse.
Right.
Because sometimes we can use our trauma as the excuse, right? Like, I remember even from the beginning, like the question, why us? You know, I always turned around and I said, why not us? Like, things like bad stuff happens to everyone every day. Why not us? You know, of course this would happen because bad things happen to everyone. And that's life. That's part of the human existence. So what do I do with this? Like, what is the story that I'm going to create with this? Sarah, can you give us a specific example maybe in your life that you're trying to find some navigation towards, and we can kind of expand on it?
Yeah, and I don't want to hijack because I know this was Bree. So if Bree wants to talk about her trauma, she can definitely do that instead of me if she wants to.
Let's hear from both of you, and we can like practice with both scenarios, right?
So, and even like in the very beginning when you were talking about trauma, like eliciting an autoimmune response, I was like, whoa, because my alopecia started when I was 5, which is also when my abuse started.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never even thought about that or connected it until you said that. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Because that is when my alopecia started, was right at that same time. So yeah, that blew my mind. I hadn't even connected that.
So the question around that is what exactly?
I mean, is it like, how is the trauma a launching pad instead of a punch in the face?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think honestly, this is maybe something that's, you're gonna be like, oh great, but the answers are in you because it's your trauma. This is just like what Juanique was saying. Can I like stop taking the enzymes? I don't know, can you? But I really feel like all the answers are in us. We just don't look in ourselves enough. We look to other people to tell us. And so I would advise you to spend a lot of time deep with yourself, meditating. Sound baths are great. I got a lot of clarity from doing a sound bath. I did a Reiki session with a friend who's Reiki certified. That was like magic. But those types of things helped me. And like, I'm not kidding you, this Reiki session was like a month ago. And a month ago, after 10 years of my daughter's health issues, I realized that she was my wayfinder. And now I look to her to guide me instead of feeling like she's pulling me off my path. And that's not something that a coach could have told me. You know, I had to go deep in here to find that answer.
I have a quick question. When you started developing the alopecia, there were probably some, because between the ages of like 0 and 6, we like our subconscious is almost like set by that time. So there were some tapes that got stuck with you during this abuse that stayed, and that are maybe an emotional trigger which has triggered the alopecia. So every time you look at the alopecia, it could connect you to those thought processes and patterns back to when the abuse started. So once you start retraining that, the alopecia can start clearing up. So maybe that abuse taught you that I'm not worthy of love. Maybe that abuse taught you that I am a bad person. Maybe that abuse told you or taught you subconsciously that in order to be loved, I need to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know what it is, but meditate on that and then put those lies down, right? And then start reprogramming those lies. And then start like reprogramming the mindset around it and start undoing the damage that was done back then. And it'll be really interesting to see how mind, body, soul, spirit all come and connect. And as you retrain yourself, you might start to see that your alopecia was the teacher. It was saying, we're not done yet. Like, I'm still here to show you that there's imbalance emotionally, energetically. Like, I'm still here to show you, there's a part of you that you have not quite made peace with yet. All right. I always share about this like retreat that I went to, and I remember I felt like I was like it was really intense, and it was like this emotional like whiplash of like me releasing a ton of energy and healing and whatnot. And I literally, like, this sounds so weird, but I literally started feeling like popping in my thyroid as I was like moving all of this negative trauma through me. And I've always had thyroid issues, right? Like my last labs, I was like, oh crap, I'm going into like Graves' disease territory again. Awesome. You know what I mean? So as I was like, you know, realizing there are all these things I need to say, and there are all of these things that I haven't expressed, and there's all of this pent up anger. And as I was starting to make these realizations, like it almost felt like my thyroid started moving, right? And like, which again, like that doesn't happen to everyone. Like I said, it was like a roller coaster of a weekend for me, but it worked, right? And like, I feel so much better, and energy started moving through me. So as the energy starts moving through you and the lies, like start thanking the lies. Say, hey, thank you for showing me there's still imbalance here. Thank you for showing me that I needed to retrain my mindset and my subconscious, and then start working on that, right? And keep us posted and tell us how the alopecia is. And it might take a week, it might take a month, it might take a few months as you start retraining that mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Like whatever started then was like connect the mindset to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then retrain that and meditate on that. Meditate and be like, what is it that I learned back then that was a lie? What is the alopecia? What lie is the alopecia connected to? When I look at the alopecia, how does it make me feel? Does it make me feel unworthy of love? Does it make me feel ugly? Does it make me feel like I'm an inconvenience to myself? I don't know what that is, but you will know.
I want to add on to that too. I think a lot of times when we experience trauma, that's when the mindset updates just stop. So if you've experienced trauma at a really young age, your mindset hasn't been updated since age 5 because you're in survival mode, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like this weird out-of-body experience with physical trauma of that degree, but that's when the mindset growth stops. And so you're going back a long way to reprogram. So just give yourself time. Bree, did you want to talk about yours or? Okay.
I think that what you said about going through some of the things that you talked about and not playing the victim card is really, really helpful. And when you're talking to Sarah, I didn't realize that trauma I had from when I was a child is being brought up now. And so it's coinciding with what I'm going through. So that was a realization for me. So that's really helpful. I appreciate that. So yeah, I've had a lot of health issues in the last 4 years due to stress of moving kids, digestive. But when I was young, very young, I was adopted. The family that I was adopted into, my dad was an alcoholic, and I was never good enough for him and unworthy. Fast forward to the past 4.5 years, I moved to Canada, had 2 kids. I'm originally from Michigan, go Tigers. But my mother-in-law treats me the way that my dad did, even 10 times worth. She's Harvard educated, tells me I come from nothing, just those sorts of things. And it's like physical, and it's had physical symptoms.
Like what?
So,
Right.
just a lot of horrible things. So anyway, so sorry I get really emotional about it.
Okay.
But so yeah, I see where the history has repeated itself.
And it's until we change the subconscious belief, we will keep attracting the same goals.
Yeah.
The same. Like you see this in people who go through multiple divorces, and somehow they like seem to attract the same type of spouse like 4 different times. And it's because the subconscious, the mindset hasn't changed. And so it just keeps attracting the same thing again, because what is attracting is the messenger to change, to update. It's just trying to get us to update. And so, yeah, I think yours revolves a lot around like feeling worthy, feeling loved, belonging, that people want you.
I have a quick question about that, Bree, because a lot of the time when people feel like they have the permission to say really disgusting things like that, it's because we have allowed ourselves to be so small, and they're like, oh, you're small, I can bully you, right? Does that resonate with you? So people that pick up on like, I want to be small and I don't want to inconvenience people, because that's what your dad was like. Is that true, where you're like, if I just get out of his way, maybe he won't pay attention to me and I won't get this abuse from him? Does that resonate? Am I on the right track right now, or does that not resonate?
Yeah, it definitely resonates.
So with bullies like this, you got to demand respect, and that can be like one of your lies and your truths is, I'm unworthy of taking up more space. And then your truth is, I am absolutely worthy of taking up more space and being heard and being a boss, right? And like capitalize boss, like it can be boss babe or whatever words resonate with you, like badass or whatever. Okay. Like a lot of you guys don't know this about me. I'm a recovering sailor. So like for me, I don't know why, but like sometimes I just got to use the swear words. All right. And when I talk about cancer, like the swear words come out. So I don't know what resonates with you, but for me, it would be like, I am worthy of taking up space and being heard and being a complete badass, right? So find the words that work for you, and then give yourself permission to cut people out like that. Like she will respond and respect that like no other, because she's picked up that like when she kicks you more, you make yourself more small. When she kicks you more, you make yourself more small. What you got to do is you got to like puff yourself up with people like that, and boundaries, man. Like toxic people like that, you got to have boundaries. I don't know if you can cut them out of your life completely, but your health and your healing and your mental well-being depends on that, right?
Yeah,
so
we moved 6 hours away in June, so that has been
so that helped. Good.
Yeah.
And if she ever calls, like always hang up, and you can even swear at the phone every time she calls and be like, F you or whatever. Okay. Like that doesn't seem like your personality, but I'm that person where I would be like, F you, I'm not answering this phone. And then you feel good. You just like let out the anger, right? Like allow yourself, like give yourself permission to get angry, and like give yourself permission to feel hurt. You got to like let that through you, right? Because if we bottle it in, it attracts more abusers. So practice those truths and those lies, practice taking up more space. Like, and I'm like, puff yourself up like a puffer fish. Like maybe you got to envision a puffer fish in your mind, right? Envision something that's like, nope, I'm not small anymore. I'm not a mouse. I'm a cat. I'm a lion. right? Embody like something that resonates with you, something that symbolizes where you're progressing towards. Maybe you feel like this timid mouse, and then go to like a black cat. And then from a cat, you can go to like a cougar, and from a cougar, you can go to a tiger or something. You know what I mean? Like exercise these things, but like practice like culling the tree, like cutting out those roots, but not the roots, cutting out those branches that don't serve you anymore. And so that's it, like moving away 6 hours, amazing. How can you take it to the next step now? Like be proactive about that. Like maybe it's like, hey, guess what? I'm never doing Christmas with you or Thanksgiving or birthdays ever again. Maybe it's, hey, you're never going to get a happy birthday email from me ever again. You're not being mean, you're taking charge, right? Like you're steering your energy. You're creating another boundary and being like, guess what? You're a terrible person. I don't have to engage with terrible people. I know that sounds kind of weird, right? Aubrey, rein me in if I'm like, going like, rah! But for me, like my motto is power, courage, kindness. And so this is my power coming out, right? This is me taking back my power, and like, but doing it in a kind way. Maybe you swear at the phone, but you don't swear at the person. You know what I mean? Like, but really like power, courage, kindness. Like find that inner power, practice that power, and then be courageous to keep practicing that power, right? And then being kind to yourself all the time. Like always being kind to you. Is this action to like making this barrier? Is this being kind to me? Is this practicing more power? Is this practicing more courage? If it is, yes, keep going, right? Like keep practicing, like anyone that's toxic to you, cut them out. You do not have to be friends with everyone in the world. You don't. All right.
And I want to like, especially when you're healing, you know, we cut out toxic foods. We've got to cut out toxic relationships and with like food prison, it's not necessarily going to be a forever thing. If we're healed and we're strong enough, we can reintroduce some foods and save people, I think. But people who are toxic and belittling do not need to have access to us when we're healing.
Never.
Absolutely. And another practice that might, I just keep feeling it might benefit someone in the group. I don't know if it's Bree or somebody else, but there's a certain name for it. I can't remember, but it's just where you write a letter to people who've like really wronged you. You've maybe never been able to stand up for yourself. Write it all out. Like get the swears out on paper, not on people though. On paper, not on people is what I always say.
I love that.
because if it's in you, it's causing you harm. Physical harm. We all know that. We all have physical stuff from negative energy and trauma trapped in us. So writing gets it out, and then do the thing and rip it up and burn it, or like go throw it in the ocean if you live by the ocean, or like just destroy it so that it's out of you, but it's not hurting them more because they're already hurt. If they're hurting you, they're already hurt. So hurting them more is just not necessarily like, I don't think the right route.
Right.
But yeah, the practice of writing, I've had to do that with a couple random people, and it's really helpful to move the anger out so that it's not manifesting in you anymore. Yeah.
I like that a lot. But is that helpful, Bree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely is. I just don't want to harbor that like anger. I want that out of my body because like I feel the anger physically almost every day, if that makes sense or not. And it's so taken up 4.5 years of my physical and mental being, and I just want it like out. It's not healthy.
Move it through you. I you know, that like feeling the anger, like maybe you like primal screaming, like that can be very healing. And maybe it's just like putting on a loud song and like screaming to the song, because sometimes we feel uncomfortable hearing ourselves scream. I still do. You know, it's like, oh, like, you know, I really admire that my kids, when they are upset, they weep and they wail and they gnash their teeth, right? And I'm like, man, how do you do that? Because I lost my ability to do that, right? And so maybe the weeping and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth is putting on an angry song and just letting it out, you know, like the song that comes to my mind is Kelly Clarkson. The one, Here I Am, Once Again Torn into Pieces. Do you guys know which song I'm talking about? Yeah. Can't deny it, can't pretend.
Yeah.
or something like that. And like maybe it's like a sad song that like helps you just move that energy through you, right? And then you heal, and then you start working on your affirmations. And then you put on another sad, angry song and you release it through you. Or you write it down, or you burn it, or whatever resonates with you. And then you practice your boundaries, you practice your truths, you practice the affirmations, you breathe it out of you. Like you just practice all of these things. But like, yep, like just finding things, actions of empowerment. Moving is something, you know, if she still has access to you, create more boundaries, all right, to empower you, to heal you, because there's still healing that needs to happen there.
Yeah, and I would just wrap that up by saying, for anyone who has, I mean, we all have toxic people in our lives, work on fighting for you, not against the other person.
Yes.
Yourself, and it just naturally, they can feel it. They can feel the energy shift, and they're like, they can just feel like, ooh, I can't actually mess with that person anymore. Dang. So. Okay, I wanted just to wrap up, I gotta go get my kids. I wanted to really quick talk about, Rachel, you had the question of the love language of food and like the reward thing of food. So I think that retraining the reward system in our brain, like instead of food, what's a different way that you can reward yourself? You know, is it 10 minutes by yourself? Like I reward myself by going to the store without my children. It feels like a mini vacation. And just finding a way to reward yourself and retraining that reward and pleasure system in your brain. And I had this other thought and I can't remember, but I'll message you in the group because it's in here somewhere and I just can't remember. It was really good though. So I'll message you.
I think transitioning from good, better, best, you know, like replace unhealthy treats with healthy treats, right? And then once you are there, so that's going from good to better. And then when better feels natural to you, we go from better to best. And you just slowly transition your reward system and your joy and your emotional ties. And that could take years. It could take months. It could take weeks. It doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. It's an illusion. It's all about what you're learning as you do it.
Oh, I remembered what it was. Sorry. Were you done?
Yes, I'm done.
I was like, oh, my brain turned back on. I think that when we reward ourselves with food, a lot of times it's like, it goes back to that really deep root of self-worth. And so building the self-worth and saying, yeah, I'm like worth good rewards that make me actually feel and function good. And I'm worth, does that make sense? Like just that taproot of self-worth, I really feel like goes back to the food as a pacifier and things like that.
Well, yeah, because I feel like the food, it's also comfort. And I've been in the South for 15 years, and that's like a huge thing. You know, down here is like food is love in the South completely. So that doesn't help me at all. Mm-hmm. And yeah, trying to, because even with my father, like he still has that, but he's 60 years old in a nursing home, and because he had 2 strokes and a heart attack at 57, and he's paralyzed on half of his body. And his biggest thing in life was that he used to be able to provide people with food and to show that, and he can't do that anymore because he doesn't have means for money. And that's affected his mental health and actually how he feels aside from being paralyzed, you know, and I don't want to go down that path.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for being like open to share that. And I think a part of like with him and maybe with you too, is that there's identity in food. And so getting deep in ourselves, like Juanique was talking about in that book, like I'm not food. that doesn't need to be my identity. Like who am I? Aside from children, aside from husband, like I always talk to my husband, I love to run. That's like my time where I feel like me. I'm not mom. I'm not babe. I'm just Aubrey, like not even a last name. I'm just Aubrey. And find that for you. Like, and the Rachel Platten song, This Is My Fight song, always comes to mind, because like for me, running is my fight song. That's where I get to fight for me, just me. So find your fight song. Like, what is it going to be for you that helps you just connect with you and nobody else? And find your worth, your identity that really has nothing to do with what food you eat. And I think that's really at the root of all of this. So that's all I got.
Thank you so much. This was so awesome. We should do like a part 2.
Yeah,
sometime.
we need to.
This was really great. Wasn't it amazing? This was awesome. Thank you so much, Aubrey. Like, oh my gosh, I enjoyed myself so much. Thanks for hanging out for 2 hours, you guys.
That was amazing. I'm so honored to like have you guys all here and just be a part of this amazing healing ripple.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Tell your kids thank you.
Okay.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining. See you all next week. Bye.